A manager smiles warmly while delivering news of a massive layoff, his pulse remaining perfectly steady as co-workers weep around him. This chilling detachment is not a defect, but a highly evolved survival regulation required to navigate the predatory architecture of modern work. The machinery of the career ladder demands a specific, hidden internal cost that few are willing to admit out loud. A woman sits in a glass boardroom, nodding with practiced empathy while she mentally calculates which colleagues can be sacrificed to save her project. The behavior is characterized by a smooth, frictionless charm that allows the individual to glide through high-stakes environments without ever leaving a footprint. Observe the timing of the smile, which always appears exactly 2 seconds after a perceived threat is neutralized by a clever, backhanded compliment. The mask is constructed of corporate buzzwords and a calm, unblinking gaze that suggests a deep reliability, masking a complete absence of genuine connection. In the break room, a man listens to a friend describe a personal tragedy, his eyes scanning for a way to exit the conversation quickly. He mimics the expected facial expressions of concern, but his hands remain perfectly still, showing a lack of the usual, involuntary micro-mirrors of empathy. The internal regulation is exposed by the physical distance he maintains, standing just far enough away to signal that he is not truly present. This masking process involves a rapid redirection of attention, where any emotional discomfort is immediately converted into a tactical advantage or a task. A supervisor watches a junior employee struggle with an impossible workload, offering a hollow phrase about resilience, while secretly enjoying the visible strain. The junior employee feels a sudden, inexplicable chill, a localized friction that arises when one realizes they are being viewed as a mere utility. The individual operates with a quiet precision, ensuring that every gesture serves the objective of maintaining a high status within the sterile hierarchy. Their laughter is often slightly too loud or perfectly timed to appease a superior, serving as a social lubricant rather than a genuine release. Behind the closed door of an office, the charm evaporates instantly, replaced by a cold, blank stare as they review a list of names. The transition is so fast that it reveals the performative nature of their public persona, a shell built to survive the relentless corporate gaze. We see this in the way certain people can pivot from a warm greeting to a cold dismissal without a single flicker of hesitation. The brain has learned to prioritize the objective over the human, a strategy that was likely forged long before the first cubicle was built. It is a mechanism designed to protect a vulnerable core by ensuring that nothing and no one can ever get close enough to wound. The individual believes they are simply being professional, unaware that they are practicing a refined form of predatory mimicry for their own safety. Every interaction is a transaction, every relationship is a leverage point, and every emotion is a potential vulnerability that must be carefully managed. The mask is so heavy that the person beneath it has begun to vanish, replaced by a highly efficient, biological machine of pure, cold ambition. This process of erasure is not an accident, but a necessary step in the evolution of the modern, successful, and perfectly functional professional. The pattern suggests a deep, early necessity to remain untouchable in a world that demanded a high price for any sign of weakness. If you're still watching, you probably notice things most people miss. You question behavior. You look beneath the surface. If that sounds like you, subscribe. This channel was made for minds like yours. A child sits at a dining table, carefully watching the shifting tension in a parent's jaw before deciding whether it is safe to speak. In this environment, an honest expression of sadness is met with a sharp, impatient sigh, teaching the brain that vulnerability is a tactical error. The nervous system begins to imprint a specific survival rule, which dictates that emotional transparency is a direct invitation for a stinging social rejection. The mechanism of effective blunting starts as a shield, allowing the child to endure a volatile household by severing the link to their own feelings. Ambiguity becomes a life-threatening threat, as the child cannot predict which version of the parent will walk through the door at any given moment. To survive, the brain develops a hyperacute ability to read external cues while simultaneously numbing the internal response to those same stressful social signals. The trade-off is absolute, where the child barters their capacity for deep, authentic intimacy for the safety of a high-functioning, protective, and hollow mask. In a competitive private school, a student realizes that their parents only offer praise when they outperform their peers in a cold, public way. The brain learns to associate love with achievement and silence with safety, creating a personality that views people as obstacles or as useful, grading tools. By the age of 12, the individual has learned to simulate the correct social response, perfecting the hollow smile that earns adult approval and status. They notice that when they display genuine distress, the adults withdraw, but when they perform a cold competence, the adults lean in with pride. The childhood learning becomes a subconscious prison, where the person is terrified of the silence that would remain if the performance ever truly stopped. Nervous system imprinting ensures that the fight response is redirected into a quiet, calculated aggression that looks exactly like a very high social intelligence. The individual does not realize they are trapped, because the prison is lined with the gold stars and high marks of a very successful upbringing. Authenticity was sacrificed so long ago that the person truly believes the mask is the only thing that exists within their quiet, internal world. This conditioning creates a brain that thrives in the cold, binary logic of the corporate world, where results are the only metric of a human life. The subconscious remains in a state of permanent vigilance, always scanning for the next performance required to stay alive in the eyes of others. Every corporate victory is an echo of that original, desperate need to be seen as a winner to avoid the coldness of a parent's back. The individual has become a master of the hollow world, built on a foundation of fear that has been buried under a mountain of heavy, expensive things. The early necessity for emotional distance has mutated into a lifelong inability to feel the texture of another person's soul or their silent, deep pain. This origin story is not unique, but is the standard blueprint for the highly efficient, biological machines that now run our most powerful, global institutions. In a modern open-plan office, a colleague shares news of a family tragedy while others nod with a rhythmic, mechanical sympathy that never reaches their eyes. The individual offers a perfectly phrased condolence, yet their body language remains closed, signaling that the emotional exchange is a disruption to the daily, productive flow. This pattern manifests in relationships as a profound sense of coldness, where a partner feels they are living with a very beautiful, high-functioning, and hollow statue. The individual treats a romantic argument like a legal negotiation, using logic to dismantle their partner's feelings until there is nothing left but a heavy, frustrated silence. Power structures reward this frictionless state, as the person who is not burdened by empathy can make the hard choices that others find morally or emotionally impossible. You are not a leader of people, but a master of the systems that keep people at a safe, exploitable distance from your own, hidden and hollow core. The identity-shattering realization is that you have spent your life perfecting a persona that everyone admires, but no one can actually love or truly touch. In a management meeting, the individual suggests a radical cost-cutting measure that will destroy lives, speaking with the calm, flat tone of a weather reporter. Others in the room feel a primal friction, a sense that something deeply human is being erased by the cold, efficient logic of the person at the table. Modern environments reward this dysfunction by labeling it as professionalism, resilience, or strategic thinking, providing a prestigious cover for what is actually a deep, emotional void. The social expression of the functional psychopath is a quiet, steady competence that never wavers, because it is not tethered to the volatility of human feeling. Work dynamics become a series of maneuvers, where the individual uses the humanity of others against them, knowing exactly which emotional buttons will trigger a specific, useful reaction. The individual feels a sense of quiet triumph when they successfully navigate a social crisis without feeling a single, genuine pulse of anxiety or deep, shared grief. Modern success is now tied to the ability to remain on at all times, a feat that requires the total suppression of the messy, unpredictable, and authentic self. The individual is a high-performing ghost, haunted by the suspicion that their entire social life is a film they are watching but never truly and deeply joined. The friction felt by others is the only proof that the mask is still there, a wall that keeps the world out while the prisoner stars within. A hand slides across a glowing screen, dismissing a human being's entire career with a single, dry movement that leaves no physical or emotional mark. The digital architecture of the modern age acts as a powerful amplifier for the detached mind, removing the messy, biological feedback of a face-to-face confrontation. Technology has made the predatory pattern invisible by rebranding the clinical lack of empathy as a necessary, high-speed efficiency for a global, hyper-competitive marketplace. The psychological cost is a state of permanent, digital performance where the individual must maintain a curated, virtuous image while executing cold, mathematical, and ruthless decisions. The safety of the corporate mask is actually a cage, as the individual becomes a slave to the metrics they once used to dominate their peers. Modern cultural incentives reward the person who can treat their own life as a brand, a collection of assets to be optimized, scaled, and eventually sold. Maintaining this mask in the digital age requires a total divorce from the physical body, as any sign of exhaustion or doubt is viewed as a system failure. A young executive checks their heart rate monitor during a high-stakes deal, smiling when they see the numbers remain low, proof of their successful internal erasure. The tension increases as the gap between the internal void and the external success becomes a wide, aching chasm that can only be filled with more status. The individual is terrified of a single moment of true, unmonitored silence, where the machinery might stop and the hollow reality might finally be seen. This amplification creates a world where the most successful people are the ones who have most effectively murdered their own capacity for spontaneous, human joy. The digital age provides the perfect cover for the functional psychopath, as the screen provides a moral distance that makes the most horrific actions feel like a game. The individual becomes a ghost in their own life, a data point in a system that values the output but views the source as a temporary, replaceable biological unit. We see this in the way modern leadership has become a series of pivots and disruptions that treat human communities like lines of code to be rewritten. The cage is now global, a network of high-performance expectations that leave no room for the slow, inefficient, and beautiful process of genuine human connection. The individual has won the game of modern life, but the prize is a throne in a kingdom of cold glass where they sit entirely and permanently alone. The individual stands before a mirror in a silent, high-rise apartment, looking at a face that has become a stranger even to the one who wears it. The achievement of a corner office and a seven-figure salary feels like a heavy, cold stone placed in a chest that has forgotten how to breathe deeply. The fix-it impulse emerges as a desperate attempt to find a hobby or a charity, seeking to buy back a soul with the same cold, tactical logic that sold it. This is the ultimate defensive layer, where the brain tries to optimize its own humanity as if empathy were a software update that could be downloaded and installed. In the quiet hours of the night, the individual realizes that their life is a perfectly executed script written for an audience that they secretly despise and fear. The discomfort is total and pervasive, a sign that the survival mechanism has been too successful, leaving the victor with a world that is sterile and entirely dead. You are left with the cold awareness that your professionalism was just a slow, polite murder of the only parts of you that were ever actually worth knowing. Do not seek a solution in therapy or meditation, for the desire to get better is often just another way to become a more efficient, high-functioning version of the mask. The realization is not a doorway to freedom, but a light turned on in a room that you now realize has no exit and is rapidly running out of air. A CEO sits in a meditation retreat, trying to feel present, while their mind secretly calculates how to market this new sense of calm to their exhausted, fearful subordinates. The machinery of dominance never truly stops. It only changes its aesthetic to match the current cultural demand for mindful and conscious leadership in a hollow age. The justifications you once used to sleep at night now feel like a thin, tattered shroud that cannot hide the cold, predatory truth of your own, singular life. The unseen machinery of your success is finally visible, but seeing the gears does not give you the power to stop them from turning your heart into dust. You are the architect of a life that is a masterpiece of efficiency and a tragedy of isolation, where every victory has been a step further into the dark. The final insight is the most haunting, as you realize that the person you were working so hard to become is the one who eventually destroyed the one you were. The mirror offers no comfort, only the reflection of a predator who has successfully hunted everything in their path, including their own capacity for a simple, human love. Stay with the coldness of the realization, for the search for a cure is the very same drive that turned you into a machine in the first place. There is no resolution for the functional psychopath, only the quiet, terrifying observation of the pattern as it continues to execute its cold, lonely, and perfect commands. The loop is closed, the machinery is silent, and the individual remains a ghost in a luxury suit, haunting a world that they conquered but can no longer feel.